I thought I knew my wife, until I saw who she was really spending time with. When I opened her phone, I just collapsed onto the bed, sweating. It was, "My name is Michael. I'm 43 years old. 6 months ago, if you had asked me how life was going, I would have said, pretty good, actually. I had a decent job as a warehouse manager, 3 children who, while noisy, made coming home worthwhile, and a wife, Ashley, who I believed had stood by me through everything life had thrown our way. We weren't flashy, not rich, not poor, just steady, ordinary. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in a small town outside of Manchester. The kind of place where nothing ever happens, or so I thought. Madison, our eldest, had just turned 18. Bright, headstrong, always pushing to grow up faster than I was ready for. She was in her final year of college prep, planning to study psychology, and dating a boy named Jake. He was polite, well-spoken, a little too confident for my liking, but he made her laugh. That counted for something. Tyler was 16, deep into football and gaming, rarely seen without his headphones on. And Emily, 9 years old and still at that beautiful stage where she thought I was the strongest, smartest man in the world. The way she hugged me after school, like I'd been away for weeks instead of hours. I missed that, more than I can say. Ashley, my wife of 15 years. The woman I thought would be mine forever. We met when I was 27 and she was 24, working in the same office at a local courier company. She used to tease me for my terrible coffee-making skills and laugh at my dry humor. She had this energy. When she smiled, it was impossible not to smile back. We married after just over a year of dating. Some people said it was too fast. I didn't care. I knew what I felt. She gave up full-time work. Said she wanted to focus on the children. I supported that, worked longer hours, picked up extra shifts when I had to. That was our deal. I bring in the money. She runs the house, and for a long time, it worked. Our routines were ordinary, comforting. Sunday dinners, family walks, game nights with the kids. We had arguments like any couple. Money, mess, the usual. But never anything serious. At least, that's what I told myself. The truth is, I was comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. I stopped noticing things. Small things. Ashley getting dressed up more often, even when she wasn't going anywhere special. Her phone always face down. The way she looked at Jake when he came over to visit Madison. Too long, too soft. At the time, I brushed it all off. Surely not. It's Jake. He's Madison's boyfriend. That would be insane. Sick, even. It started with a glance. Then a laugh. Then a gap between us. The night everything fell apart is still burned into my memory. But I'll get to that later. This is just the beginning. There's a kind of look people give each other when they think no one's watching. A flicker of something. Interest, attraction, desire. But if you catch it, if you really see it, it sticks with you. It plants itself in your chest and won't let go. That's what happened one Saturday evening. We were having a family dinner, roast chicken, potatoes, the usual. Madison had invited Jake over. He came bearing a bottle of cheap red wine for Ashley and a box of chocolates for Emily, always playing the charmer. Tyler didn't bother coming downstairs until the food hit the table, but even he seemed to tolerate Jake more than usual that night. I don't know what it was exactly. Maybe the way Ashley poured his wine before mine, or the way she laughed a little too hard at one of his jokes, one that wasn't even funny. Or maybe it was when Jake reached across the table to pass her the salt and their hands brushed and she didn't pull away. She looked at him, and he looked at her, just for a second. But I saw it. I don't think either of them realized I was watching. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't casual. It was deliberate. Something in me shifted. After dinner, I pretended to be doing the washing up while they all moved to the living room to watch a film. Ashley and Jake sat on opposite ends of the sofa, like they were trying to be cautious. But their bodies leaned toward each other. Subtle, almost imperceptible. But I noticed it. Madison, completely unaware, curled up next to Jake with her head on his shoulder. Emily sat on the floor with a blanket and a bowl of popcorn. Tyler had retreated to his room, probably back to his headset and some online match. I stood in the kitchen, hands dripping with suds, staring at my reflection in the dark window. Was I imagining it? Had I just watched the mother of my children flirt with our daughter's boyfriend? The thought alone made my skin crawl. But I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not the next day either. What could I say? Accuse her of what? A look? A laugh? No. I needed more. I needed certainty. So I started watching. I wasn't proud of it. checking her phone when she went to the loo, scanning through the call logs, looking for Jake's name. She had his number saved, of course. Madison's boyfriend. It wasn't unusual, but the frequency of their conversations made my stomach twist. Once, twice, then 3 times in a single day, always mid-morning or early afternoon. Times when Madison would be at college and I'd be at work. What were they talking about? Still, I said nothing. Instead, I watched the gap between us grow wider. Ashley became distant. Physically there, but emotionally checked out. Conversations turned into one-word replies. Laughter stopped altogether. Intimacy vanished. She always had an excuse, a headache, tired, not in the mood. I stopped trying. One night, I found her sitting outside in the garden. It was nearly midnight. She had a glass of wine in one hand, her phone in the other, the screen glowing faintly in the dark. She didn't hear me approach. When she realized I was there, she jumped slightly and pressed the screen to her chest like a teenager caught texting during lessons. "Just scrolling," she said quickly, her voice too casual, her smile too sharp. I nodded. I didn't ask. She offered me the wine, and I took a sip. Bitter. Warm. "You okay?" I asked her. "Fine," she replied, then added, "Just thinking." I wanted to say more, to press, but I didn't. I let it go, because a part of me still didn't want to know. The following week, Jake came over again. Madison was getting ready upstairs. I walked into the kitchen to find him leaning against the counter, sipping juice like he lived there. Ashley was next to him, too close. Way too close. Her hand was on his arm. That time, they didn't notice me. Jake straightened up. Ashley stepped away, her face flushing. I stared at them both, said nothing, and walked straight out the back door. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to count my breaths. Ashley was next to me, back turned, breathing steadily. I watched the numbers on the clock roll over, minute by minute, hour by hour, until the sun began to creep in through the blinds. Something was happening, and I wasn't going to keep pretending I didn't see it. A part of me still hoped I was wrong, that I was paranoid, tired. But something inside me kept whispering, "No, you already know. You're just too afraid to say it out loud." It happened by accident, like these things always do. Ashley had left her laptop open on the dining table one morning. She was in the shower. I was home from work, taking a rare day off to fix a leak in the loft. Normally, I wouldn't even glance at her computer. We trusted each other, or at least we used to, but something pulled me toward it. I walked past, and the screen lit up. A notification in the corner. New message from Jake. "Want to do it again today?" My heart dropped so fast I felt it in my stomach. I sat down slowly, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Opened the chat window, and what I read made me physically sick. It wasn't just flirting. It wasn't harmless or vague. It was detailed, descriptive, explicit. Messages between my wife and my daughter's boyfriend, speaking in a way that no adult should speak to someone that age, let alone someone their daughter was dating. She sent him photos. Things she would never have shown me in the last year. Him, calling her gorgeous, wild, better than Madison. She replied with things like, "She doesn't have to know," and "Last time was risky, but thrilling." My chest felt tight. My hands, damp. One message from Jake stuck in my mind like poison. "It's messed up, but I can't stop thinking about you. She doesn't need to know. It's just a bit of fun." Ashley responded with a laughing emoji and said, "You're addictive. It's our little secret." I closed the laptop, sat in silence. The kettle clicked off behind me. Birds chirped outside. The world carried on like nothing had happened. When Ashley came downstairs 20 minutes later, wrapped in her robe, hair wet, she smiled at me. Casual, like it was any normal day. "Morning," she said, heading straight for the fridge. I couldn't speak, couldn't even look at her. She didn't notice, or she pretended not to. I excused myself, went upstairs, and locked the bathroom door. I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. My face looked pale, older, like I'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. This was real. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't imagined. Ashley, my wife, was having an affair with Jake, the 18-year-old boy who was dating our daughter. It was betrayal on a level I couldn't begin to explain, not just as a husband, but as a father. And the worst part? Madison had no idea. She still looked at Jake with the same soft expression she always had. Still smiled when his name popped up on her phone. Still got dressed up whenever he was coming over. She adored him, trusted him. How could I tell her? How could I even begin? But I knew I had to. I couldn't pretend. I couldn't swallow it. Not this. I managed to get the screenshots while my wife was in the shower. It was my only chance. Then I printed them out. Just a few, enough to prove it, to explain, in case Ashley tried to lie. I hid them in my desk drawer, behind old tax documents and bits of junk no one ever touches. I started sleeping in the spare room. Ashley said it was because of my snoring. She laughed about it, made jokes at breakfast in front of the kids. But it wasn't funny. For a week, I didn't speak a word about what I'd found. I just observed. Noticed how often Jake came over when Madison wasn't home. How Ashley dressed when she knew he would be around. How their eyes met across the room when they thought no one else was watching. The sneaking, the smiling, the silence when I entered. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a ghost in my own house. But I wasn't going to stay that way. I've never been one for drama. I don't like shouting. I don't like scenes. I'm the sort who fixes a leaky tap before anyone notices it's dripping. But there's a breaking point in everyone. And mine came on a Wednesday afternoon, completely out of nowhere. Madison had gone out for a dentist appointment with Ashley, or so I was told. Tyler was upstairs, Emily at her friend's house for a playdate. I had come home early from work. No warning. When I stepped through the door, I heard music, low, soft. Jazz, Ashley's favorite, and laughter. I walked into the kitchen and saw him. Jake, sitting at the table like he belonged there, wearing one of Tyler's t-shirts, drinking coffee from my mug. My mug. Ashley stood by the sink, cheeks slightly flushed. She was wearing perfume, lipstick, a blouse I hadn't seen in months, slightly unbuttoned. Their eyes widened when they saw me. And in that moment, I didn't need the screenshots. Didn't need the messages, or the whispers, or the memories of stolen glances. I knew. What's he doing here? I asked, my voice quiet. Too quiet. Ashley blinked. He dropped by? Thought he'd wait for Mads. She's not here. I cut in. You knew that. Silence. Jake stood up, trying to act casual, but I saw the panic behind his eyes. I was just gonna head out. Sit down, I said. He froze. Ashley stepped forward, placing herself between us. Michael, let's not. No, we're doing this. Now. She opened her mouth. To lie, I assume. But I was done listening. I walked over to the drawer and pulled out the folded sheets of paper, the messages, the ones I had printed. I tossed them on the table. Ashley didn't even pick them up. She just stared at them, then slowly sat down. The color drained from her face. Jake looked down, eyes scanning the words. And then he laughed. It's not what you think, he said, smirking. That laugh. That smirk. I saw red. You've been sleeping with my wife, I said, shaking, while dating my daughter. In my house. At my table. Drinking from my cup. Ashley looked at me, eyes full of something that wasn't quite shame. Not quite regret. Just emptiness. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. I almost laughed. You didn't mean for it to happen? What? You tripped and fell into each other. Over and over again. She flinched. Jake stayed quiet. I turned to him. Get out. He didn't move. So I took a step closer. If you're still standing in this house in 30 seconds, I swear to God, I will forget I'm a calm man. He left. Quickly. Didn't even shut the door behind him. I was left alone with Ashley. She looked smaller somehow. Fragile. But I didn't feel pity. I loved you, I said. My voice cracked. I know. Do you? I asked. Do you actually know what this has done to me? To our family? Do you have the faintest idea how this will destroy Madison? She started to cry, and I watched her. I didn't comfort her. Not this time. Was it worth it? I asked. Throwing away 15 years for a thrill? She didn't answer. Just cried. I left the room. I couldn't bear to look at her any longer. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the sofa staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what came next. I had two choices. Let this rip everything apart. Or control the damage, hold the reins, and make sure they never forget what they've done. I chose the second. Not out of pride. Not out of cruelty. But because they needed to understand. You don't get to destroy a man's life and walk away smiling. That's the road I chose. Because I couldn't just explode. Not with 3 kids under my roof. Not when Madison was still laughing at Jake's texts, completely unaware her entire world was about to fall apart. Not when Emily still asked me to help with her homework and Tyler was revising for exams. I had to stay calm for them. But I also had to act for me. The next morning, Ashley didn't come out of the bedroom. The kids noticed, of course. Tyler asked if she was sick. Emily went in to check on her, then came out saying, Mum's sad today. I just nodded. Said nothing. She didn't come downstairs for dinner either. That night, I knocked once before stepping into the bedroom. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in yesterday's clothes. Her phone beside her. Face pale. Eyes empty. I told Jake not to come here again, she said quietly. I ignored it. I want you to leave, I said. Tomorrow. Her eyes widened. Michael, please. I'm not going to fight with you in front of the children. I'm not going to make a scene. But you need to go. You can stay with your sister. Or a hotel. I don't care. But you're not staying here. Tears. Of course. But I didn't waver. I'll tell them we need space. That you're sorting your head out. Whatever lie makes you feel better. But you're gone by morning. She nodded, barely. That night, I called my brother. The one person I trusted. You still know that solicitor you used last year? Yeah, he said. You all right? Not really. Within 3 days, I had legal advice. Focused entirely on protecting the kids. I didn't mention Jake's name to the solicitor, not yet. But I told him enough. That there had been an affair. That I wanted a separation. I started gathering everything. Bank statements. Screenshots. She'd used our shared laptop without clearing the cache. One stood out. You make me feel alive again. Like I'm not just a mom and wife anymore. I sat there for a long time after reading that. It was the same evening I came home early with her favorite takeaway, just to surprise her. She barely looked at me then. But she was alive in someone else's inbox. The real challenge was Madison. How do you tell your daughter that her boyfriend isn't just unfaithful, but with her mother? I didn't know how to say it. So I waited. Bought time. Until one evening. She came home early, upset. Jake's not answering, she said, pacing the kitchen. He's acting weird. I think he's seeing someone else. I froze. Ashley, who was back at the house for co-parenting reasons, was upstairs. I could hear her moving about. I looked at Madison. My little girl, though she wasn't little anymore. Her voice cracking, tears forming in her eyes. And suddenly, I realized something. Jake wasn't just an idiot. He was a coward. He dropped her. Like a child bored with a toy. No explanation. No closure. He was going to let her suffer without knowing the truth. I couldn't let that happen. Madison, I said gently. Come sit. She blinked. What's going on? There's something you need to know. And I'm so sorry. She sat slowly. I told her everything. Not in graphic detail. I couldn't. But just enough. Jake. Ashley. Messages. Meetings. Lies. Her face went pale. Then red. Then pale again. She didn't cry at first. She just stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Like the words didn't belong in her world. Then she stood up and said, No. Mads, no. You're lying. You're trying to make me hate her. Sweetheart, I have proof. No. She screamed it. And then she ran. She was gone for 2 hours. I called her phone 5 times. No answer. When she finally came back, her eyes were swollen. Her knuckles scraped. She'd hit something. A wall, maybe. Or Jake. She didn't speak. Just walked straight past Ashley, who stood frozen in the hallway, and went upstairs. The next morning, she asked if she could stay at her friend's house for the weekend. I let her go. Sometimes distance is the only thing that keeps a person from drowning. That weekend, I accidentally saw a pop-up message on Ashley's phone from Jake. Clearly, she was still texting him. After everything. After being caught. After Madison found out. After I told her to stop. She was still doing it. That's when something inside me finally died. Whatever part of me had held on. Out of love, out of hope, out of sheer habit, it was gone now. And what took its place was clarity. She and Jake had burned the bridge, then laughed while it crumbled. So I became someone who no longer cared about keeping the peace, only about keeping control. Ashley still stayed at the house a few nights a week for the kids. But really, she had nowhere else to go. Her sister wouldn't take her in once she found out what happened, and I made sure she did. A short conversation. Nothing cruel. Just facts. I thought you should know. Ashley's been involved with Madison's boyfriend. Yes, that Jake. I'm not trying to ruin things. I'm trying to keep you from offering her shelter she doesn't deserve. There was silence on the other end. Then, a quiet, thank you, Michael. Ashley didn't mention it, but she stopped pretending to take weekend trips to her sisters. Because now, she had nowhere to go. And I liked it that way. The children were fractured. Tyler grew quiet. Kept to himself. He knew something had happened, even if he didn't know the details. I caught him looking at Ashley like she was a stranger in her own kitchen. Emily, sweet and too young to understand, Only asked why Mom was sleeping in the guest room again. I told her Mom and Dad were working through some things. That seemed enough for now. But Madison, she didn't speak to Ashley for over a month. Not a single word. And she moved her bedroom lock to the inside of the door. Ashley cried about it one night, sitting at the table after everyone had gone to bed. "I've lost her," she whispered. "You threw her away?" I replied. "There's a difference." Then came the next move. Jake. He was still walking around, smiling like he'd done nothing wrong. Still showing up to college, posting photos, liking Madison's old pictures as if nothing had changed. I couldn't let that go, so I paid him a visit. He was working part-time at a car dealership just outside town. I waited until a Saturday afternoon. Went in, let him spot me. The blood drained from his face. "We're closed," he mumbled, though the sign clearly said open. "I'm not here to buy," I said. "I'm here to talk." He looked around, panicked. "Out here or inside? Doesn't matter. But we're having this conversation." He chose inside. "Coward. You hurt my daughter," I said. "And you used my wife." "It wasn't like that. Don't speak unless I ask you to." He shut up. "I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not going to lay a hand on you. I'm not even going to raise my voice." I leaned in. "But listen carefully. If you ever contact Madison again, if you send a message, like a photo, tag her in anything, I'll make sure every girl you ever try to date knows exactly who you are. Every job you apply to, I'll be the reference they never asked for. Every future you try to build, I'll be the shadow that stains it." He tried to speak. I cut him off. "You think this is over? It hasn't even begun. Leave my family alone, and pray you're never near it again." I left him pale, sweating, and stammering in a swivel chair that spun with shame. Back home, I called my solicitor. We began preparing for full custody. Ashley didn't know yet. I wanted to time it right. Then I dug deeper. Found out Jake had a disciplinary warning at college. Inappropriate messaging with another girl last year. No charges, just warnings, sealed documents. But I knew someone who worked in admin, and I made sure those whispers reached the right ears. Within a week, Jake was suspended. He didn't know it was me, but I know he suspected. He should. The moment that sealed everything came 2 weeks later. Madison sat across from me at breakfast. Quiet, serious. "I want to change schools," she said. "All right," I replied. "I can't walk down those halls anymore. Everyone looks at me like I'm the punchline. I didn't do anything. But they all know, Dad. They all know." I felt rage boil up in my chest. "I'll sort it," I said. "Whatever you need. We'll make it happen." She nodded. And for the first time since the truth came out, she reached across the table and took my hand. "Thanks for not lying to me," she whispered. I didn't say anything, just held her hand and let her squeeze mine. That night, I handed Ashley the custody papers. She didn't cry this time. She just looked at them, then at me. "You're going to ruin me," she said softly. "You did that yourself," I replied. "It was a mistake." "No, it was a choice. Over and over again. And now I'm making mine." Ashley didn't move out right away. She fought it. Said she needed time. Said she wanted to explain things to the children properly, like that would somehow fix what she'd done. I told her she had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to gather her things, say her goodbyes, and leave. She spent most of it crying behind closed doors or pacing the hallway like a stranger in her own home. The kids avoided her. Tyler wouldn't eat dinner at the table when she was there. Madison locked her door every night. Emily, well, she was still young enough to forgive, but even she had stopped asking for bedtime hugs. The house felt hollow, like a stage after the shows ended. All the props still standing, but no life in them. Just dust and silence. One morning, I found Ashley sitting on the stairs, surrounded by old photo albums. The big leather-bound ones she used to guard like treasure. She didn't notice I was there at first. She was crying over a photo of us holding Madison the day she was born. We were younger, brighter. She looked up. "I ruined everything," she whispered. I didn't reply, because she was right. A few days later, I sat down with the children. Ashley wasn't in the room. She'd gone for a walk, or maybe just to avoid the hard conversations. "I want you to know something," I said. "None of this is your fault. Not one bit. What's happening between your mother and me? It's because of choices we made. Grown-up ones. Not yours." Tyler looked at me with sharp, observant eyes. He was more like me than I realized. Quiet, but constantly absorbing. Madison didn't say a word, but she nodded. That was enough. Emily leaned into me and asked, "Is Mummy going to be gone forever?" I paused. "She'll still be in your life," I said carefully. "Just not here." We'll figure it out together. I felt them all drift closer. Even Madison. Sometimes you don't need perfect words, just presence. On the day Ashley left, she tried to hug Madison. Madison stepped back. I don't want to hate you, she said, but I don't know how to feel anything else right now. Ashley's face crumpled, but she didn't force it. She hugged Tyler, who allowed it, but didn't hug back. Emily held her the longest. I let them have that moment. I couldn't take that from her. Ashley was still her mother, no matter what. She looked at me last. I know you'll never forgive me. Correct. And I know you'll make sure I never forget it. I didn't smile. Didn't move. She left. The door shut quietly. No slam. No drama. Just a click. That night, I sat in the living room, staring at the space where our wedding photo used to hang. I'd taken it down that morning. Couldn't look at it anymore. The wall was bare now. Like the rest of the house, we began to rebuild, the kids and I. Pizza on Fridays became tradition again. Madison and I went out to dinner, just the two of us, for the first time in years. Tyler started opening up more about school, friends, things I didn't know he'd held in. Emily began drawing again. Her latest picture was of Dad's new house. Same roof, same windows, but just the four of us. I put it on the fridge. Jake had vanished, stopped showing his face around town, but I knew where he was, and I wasn't going to let him disappear quietly. Some choices don't get forgiven. They get remembered. Jake thought it was over. He vanished after his suspension, deleted his social media, stopped showing up around college, even changed jobs, according to what I'd heard. But he didn't get to disappear. Not that easily. Some betrayals echo. Some names deserve to stick. So I gave him a reason to remember mine. It started with a letter. Handwritten. No threats. No anger. Just truth. I sent it to his flat. No return address. Jake, you may have walked away from my family, but my daughter cries herself to sleep. My son won't look his mother in the eye. My youngest asks where Mom has gone and why her sister doesn't smile anymore. That's your legacy. You said it was just fun. A joke. A secret. But you're not a teenager in a film. You're an adult. And now you get to live with what you've done. I'm not coming after you with fists or rage. I'm coming with something worse, the weight of exposure. There are people who should know who you really are. Employers. Lecturers. Families. You wanted attention? You'll get it. I didn't expect a reply, but a few days later, I got one. An email. Anonymous, but I recognized the writing. Please stop. I messed up, I know that. You've made your point. Don't ruin what's left of my life. I stared at the screen, and I smiled. Next, I spoke to someone I hadn't seen in years, my old friend Gavin, who worked at a local youth program. He was always looking for speakers to talk to sixth form students about choices, adulthood, responsibility. I volunteered. It wasn't a speech about cheating or betrayal. It was about trust, about what it costs to betray it, about how a single selfish act can collapse a home. I never said Jake's name. One night, I saw Jake again, outside a Tesco, of all places. He was walking fast, hood up, shoulders tense. He saw me, froze. I didn't walk toward him. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, and he looked away. That was enough. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Back at home, Madison was healing in pieces. Some days, she laughed again. Others, she locked herself in her room and listened to music with the volume far too high. She started applying to universities further away, Leeds, Edinburgh, even one in Ireland. I asked her why. She said, I just want somewhere clean, somewhere new. I didn't try to stop her. I told her I'd help however I could. She wasn't running, she was reclaiming. And I respected that. Ashley tried calling one night. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Michael, please. I know I messed up. But can we talk? I miss them. I miss you. Delete. Another message the next day. Just let me explain. Delete. She still hadn't apologized to Madison properly. Still hadn't stopped playing the victim. Still hadn't faced the damage with any real accountability. I began replacing things in the house. Old photos came down. New ones went up, just the kids and me. I repainted the living room. Bought a new bed for myself. Rearranged the kitchen. Small things, but each one felt like a breath of fresh air. This was our home now. Mine and theirs. Ashley will live with the silence of her children. With birthdays missed. With the slow, sharp realization that forgiveness isn't something you can beg for. It's something you earn. And me? I was becoming someone new. 3 months passed. The kids and I found rhythm again. Mornings were smoother. Evenings slower. Tyler started helping with dinner without being asked. Madison still distant in her own way, began playing music again. Emily, she asked fewer questions. And Ashley? She stopped trying. The messages stopped. No more voicemails, no more late-night calls. One Sunday, Madison knocked on my bedroom door. It was early, rain against the window. I was still half asleep. "Can I sit with you?" "Of course." She climbed onto the bed, like she was 8 years old again. She stared at the ceiling for a long while before she spoke. "It still hurts," she whispered. "Like, deep down. Like something got cracked, and I don't know if it'll ever go back to how it was." "I don't think it will," I said quietly. "But cracks let the light in, Maddie. That's how we grow. It's slow, but it happens." She nodded, and then, without saying anything else, she leaned her head on my shoulder. That was the closest I've ever come to peace. Later that week, I got a letter from Ashley's solicitor. She was asking for partial custody, weekends, shared holidays. I passed it straight to mine. A week later, we received her withdrawal. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Emily ask, "When's Mummy coming back?" I never say never. I just say, "Not tonight, sweetheart." Madison got accepted to a university in Edinburgh. When the letter came, she cried. Not because she was sad, because she finally felt like something good was starting again. I offered to drive her up myself when the time came. She smiled. "I'd like that." As for Jake, he vanished entirely. I heard whispers that he dropped out of college, moved out of town. Nobody really talks about him anymore. He became a ghost with a name people avoid saying out loud. Good. He earned that silence. I sometimes sit on the back step after the kids are asleep, a cup of tea in my hands, staring out at the garden Ashley used to plant roses in. They've all died off now. Overgrown. Unkept. And I don't cut them. Let them wilt. Let them remind me what happens when something beautiful is taken for granted. It's been nearly a year now. Funny how time both drags and flies. You blink, and the leaves change. You wake up, and the quiet doesn't feel so heavy anymore. It just feels normal. Ashley hasn't seen the children since Christmas. Madison refused to visit. Tyler didn't answer her calls. Emily sent her a card, drawn by hand, but signed only with her name, not love. A detail Ashley probably noticed. She sent back a message, "I miss you all terribly." Madison left for Edinburgh in September. Packing up her things felt like reliving the last year in fast forward. Every folded jumper, every book, every small piece of her life. We drove up together. 8 hours of winding roads and service stations. When we arrived at her flat, she turned to me, suddenly teary. And then she hugged me. A real hug. The kind you give someone you trust. Tyler started seeing a girl from school. Sweet, shy, smart. The opposite of Jake. One evening, I found them sitting in the garden, laughing quietly under the porch light. He looked up and caught me watching. He gave me a nod. Not asking permission, just letting me know he was okay. And that's all I needed. Emily drew another family picture last week. She handed it to me with a big grin. "Do you like it?" "I love it," I said. "Where's Mummy?" She looked down for a second, then said, "Far away." Not sad, just true. Children understand more than we give them credit for. As for me, I'm still here, still learning. There's a woman at work who's been bringing me homemade biscuits every Thursday. Says she bakes too much and needs someone to take the extras. She smiles a lot, doesn't ask too many questions. We talk sometimes, just small things. The weather, tea, her cat. Life goes on, and I'm glad everything is finally in its place. Thank you for listening to my story.